So we're halfway through our trip. Boiling hot weather continues in Europe, and we've landed in Vienna, the capital of Austria, a city of great historical, cultural and political significance, especially in Europe. Vienna was the center of the Habsburg Empire for centuries. It is one of the most powerful and wealthiest dynasties in European history, and this wealth can actually be seen in the structure and the architecture of the buildings throughout Vienna. It served as the imperial capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire until the dissolution in 1918, after the death of the heir to the throne, Archduke Ferdinand, in Sarajevo, which led to actually the World War I and changed European history and redrew maps forever. After World War II, Austria declared itself as permanently neutral, and Vienna became a meeting point for the East and West during the Cold War period in particular. And this neutrality continues today. It makes Vienna an important location for diplomatic negotiations. It is one of the 4 official seats of the United Nations as well, and hosts other important international organizations, such as the International Atomic Energy Agency and the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Companies, OPEC, very important 2 bodies. So while we were at Vienna, we saw the Imperial Dynasty summer residence at Schönbrunn Palace. This Baroque palace is one of Vienna's most famous landmarks, slightly away from the city centre. But also we got to see the Hofburg Palace, which was the official residence of the Habsburg dynasty. It now houses the president, as well as having several museums, including the official imperial armory as well. The historic center of Vienna is full of beautiful architecture, charming streets and important landmarks, and it has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site as well. The center is actually rounded by something called the Ringstrasse, which is a grand boulevard with trees all around it. But inside that center has some of the city's most important buildings, including the Gothic St. Stephen's Cathedral, the Museum Quarter, Vienna State Opera, which is the center of Vienna's cultural scene. Vienna is often called the city of music due to its rich musical legacy. It's home to some of the greatest composers of the world, including Mozart and Beethoven. Vienna is also home to the Sacher Torte, which has been declared as the world's best chocolate. As chocolate lovers, we stood in line for hours to get into this restaurant, which was set up in the 19th century. So do let me know if you visited Vienna, what you particularly liked best as well.
It's 6 a.m. and I'm at Krakow station, off to Vienna now for the next part of our journey. I'm sitting on the footsteps of the Hofburg Palace. The palace itself, they started building it in the 13th century, and it took over 600 years before they completed this beautiful, intricate palace. It's an awesome building. I'm going to show you rooms inside as well, but it epitomizes the height of the Habsburg Empire's influence and wealth from A to Z. It's a beautiful building. So this amazing grand architecture of these palace buildings that we see all around Vienna actually contributed to emphasizing the influence, the power, the stability, the continuity of the Habsburg Empire to its citizens, to the people of the region, to the world in many ways. And we've seen this across the world. I mean, this is not unique in Vienna, but what you do find in the Habsburg Empire, given the fact that it was amongst the richest countries of the world at the time, probably the 3rd or the 4th, I think, they were able to use that wealth to actually reinforce that message of legitimacy to its people, that they were given this divine right to rule over the people, and their wealth embodied that. The Hofburg complex is a vast, complex layout. It has over 2,600 rooms, which consists of wings in different parts of the building, there's squares, there's courtyards, there's rooms to hide away from your mother when you're 5 years old, and there's rooms to hide away from your mother when you're 25 years old. But beautiful complex. But one of the interesting things, because it's developed over time, the complex itself has a variety of different styles. So you'll see Renaissance styles in the complex, there'll be Gothic styles, there's Baroque, there's Rococo, there's classic styles. So just a large variety of different styles because of the fact that it actually developed over 600 years. So this is from 1430 to 1490. This costume is from 1485. This is now 1510. Interestingly, costumes seem to be getting smaller. Not sure what that means. The Habsburgs on the Roman German throne. Now this is lavish. This belonged to Henry III in 1551 to 1589. So these were the costumes, it seems, of the kings and their horses. Men liked wasting money even back then, especially back then. Men and their toys, as they say. The Schönbrunn Palace, which dates back to the 17th century, was commissioned by Emperor Leopold I, is known for its beautiful, stunning, expansive gardens as well. So as I said, this is a very opulent palace, similar to the Palace of Versailles that the French had under Louis XIV that we've heard so much about. This particular palace has a similar hall of mirrors, which is similar to that Versailles Palace. It has a great gallery hall where people would come in and the kings would receive them at that point. The Habsburgs actually bought the palace in the 16th century. In the 17th century, it was destroyed by, large parts of it were destroyed by the Turkish siege, and then a new palace was recreated, and the current palace we actually now see is from the 18th century Baroque fashion. The palace was later given to the famous Empress Maria Theresa as part of her wedding dowry. She lived here during the early mid-18th century, around the 1740s. So the palace was occupied twice during Napoleon's period, both in 1805 and by 1809 as well. So the palace has very large parks. It's about 1 kilometer north to south and another kilometer and a half east to west. The parks were finally opened to the public itself in 1779 and are beautiful parks, and I will show you clips of these parks. There's a Japanese garden, there's a horticultural garden, there's an orangery, there's different parts to the park around here. Go and find out anyway. Funnily enough, one of the major aims during my trip here to Vienna has become how to find some shade. We're sitting in temperatures reaching 93, 94 degrees Fahrenheit, which is around 34, 35 degrees centigrade. Really, really hot days. We're trying to come out early in the mornings or late at night, but the problem with late at night is that everything gets dark, even though it's still beautiful to look at, but a lot of the buildings, they actually close quite early. So especially given the kind of temperature we're seeing here in Vienna, closing by 6 p.m. means it's still really hot to go out. In fact, on the way back from the Schönbrunn Palace yesterday, the taxi driver told us he's never seen temperatures like this. He said in the last 5 years, the temperatures we're getting in Vienna, you just never had them before. And in fact, most of the apartments, since I'm booking mostly with Airbnb, most of the apartments have no air conditioning whatsoever. So it's really, really difficult to sleep at night. We have one small fan, but we're here, we're on holiday, and we're still enjoying ourselves. I'm here today in front of the Vienna State Opera. It's a beautiful building built in 1869 in a neo-Renaissance type style. It's within what is called Vienna's Ringstrasse, which is a ring road, a grand boulevard within which a lot of historical and beautiful, impressive buildings exist, including the Vienna State House. There is the Vienna Opera House. There is the Albertine Museum, and they're both very close to the Hofburg Palace as well. The Opera State, the house itself was actually bombed during the World War II, and a lot of it was destroyed. What was left was the foyer and one of the outside staircases as well. But a lot of work was done to update the building and reconstruct the building. And then it was officially opened to the public again once in 1955. The building is one of Vienna's cultural icons. It is the center of Vienna's cultural scene. It has all the operas, the concerts, the ballets, over 350 performances every single year. We actually got to see a free outdoor Madame Butterfly performance that was originally performed at the Opera House. It's a beautiful place, a historical place, well worth the visit. So I'm at the world famous Sacher chocolate place to test apparently amazing chocolates.